just happened is Mummy Bear just started the recording and I was in the middle of talking about something else.
The reason is because
oh my gosh,
you have to get on with your revision for exams. So we said we were going to make this a really quick one. None of the small talk. Get straight into it. You can tell me all about it the day after tomorrow when you're all done. So Sweetpea had a load of exams today.
Yeah.
And a load of exams tomorrow.
Yes.
And then she's planning on sleeping until as late as...
get this,
8 a.m.
I know, that is such a line for me. I'm so looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So yes, I had exams today. Oh God, blimey, they were interesting. The mech end went all right. The biology went all right. I was quite pleased with the biology actually because I was able to kind of use my planty brain.
Massive brain.
Yeah. to get through it. But then chemistry was just a big flop, big pancake flop. But that I knew was going to happen because I find it so hard for chemistry to click in my head. It just doesn't click.
It doesn't click. I always say this because I did it at A level and then had some of it at uni. It's wizardry. It's not like physics where it's tangible. You can see things. You know how that must work like that. Chemistry is all wizardry and it's all just like a cauldron of stuff bubbling up. You just have to trust scientists higher up.
Exactly.
Who are telling you that there are this many hydrogen atoms to oxygen atoms. It's horrible stuff. Anyway.
Oh my gosh, I actually said that. I actually did say that to someone the other day. I said...
On your paper.
No.
Don't say it on your paper.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine the teacher's like, right, 0. No, I did actually say that the other day to someone. I can't remember who I was talking to, but I said, who are these scientists who came up with all these laws? Did they want to make it just completely and utterly impossible for anyone else to understand other than themselves?
Yeah.
Or something.
Tricky stuff.
I don't know.
I had a friend at A levels who did chemistry purely because he wanted to learn how to brew really good beer.
Oh,
so
that's
he
nice.
Absolutely flew with chemistry A level and seemed to really get it. Then he studied chemistry at uni and then he went to brew beer.
That's a cool way of doing it. I like when you kind of take... I know there was one girl in my school who was really into chemistry, even though a bit like me, she found it quite hard, but she was really trying to pursue it because it interested her. But the part about it that interested her was perfumes and making all kind of beauty products, but understanding chemistry behind it. And I thought that's such a cool thing to go into.
Very good idea. A lot of money in that. A lot of competition, though. It's a very saturated market, but still, it's vanity. People will spend money on vanity. So if you promise the ends of the earth with some cream that you pop on your face, you're going to buy it, aren't you?
I fall for it. Fall for it way too much. Anyways, that's mean I haven't got much more to talk about in the garden, but I'm so looking forward to getting into the garden afterwards. It's going to be so much fun.
You will love it.
It's going to be absolutely lovely. Anyways, how are you getting on?
Well, I'm great. So I had my mammogram, which I haven't even spoken to you about yet because we haven't had time to talk.
We literally haven't.
Oh yeah, my first mammogram. So I got the invite a few months ago.
It was the first one?
Yeah, I've had friends who they say that when they turned 50, literally, a friend of mine who shares the same birthday as me, but a couple of years younger, on the day, so along with all her birthday cards, came an invite for her mammogram and for a cervical smear. So
oh my gosh.
Just what you want, isn't it, on your birthday?
Yeah, woo, birthday girl.
I went along and it was at a specific breast centre and I was sitting next to a little table in that waiting area and I looked on the table. I didn't have my glasses on. On the table, sort of stuck down with sellotape, was a poster about mammograms. I thought, oh, interesting. So I put my glasses on. Big mistake.
Oh no.
Huge mistake.
Huge.
Because there was a photo of a woman with her boob being mammogrammed and it was just squashed beyond all recognition, and that is not what I was imagining this was going to be about.
Oh my god.
These 3 lovely women came in who were probably 10 or 15 years older than me. I said to them, and if it's your first time, have you had this before?
Oh, they're so cute.
Said, no,
that's so sweet.
We've had it before. And then I said, well, I've just seen this poster.
What is happening?
It looks awful. Is it painful? And one of them said, well, my daughter actually takes paracetamol before her appointment to dull the pain. So that didn't help at all because I thought,
No.
what? I need preemptive painkillers. Then another woman said, well, look, do you have children? I said, heck yes, I do.
Hello, yeah.
And she said, well then, you've given birth.
I know what's going to... Yeah, of course. It's not as bad as giving birth. Nothing's as bad as giving birth. Come on
She didn't
now.
even have to say that. She just had to say, well, then you've given birth. So I just knew what she was saying and I calmed down. But then also whilst I was sitting there, lovely Chris Saunders-Stowe.
Yes.
Chris and Dean, who we chatted to for a chit-chat, who were on Gardeners World last year.
Yeah, of course.
Lovely Chris sent me a couple of videos of their brand new veg garden.
No way.
And compost bin. And because
and compost bin, yes, very important part.
Well, and I realised, I said to him, compost bins are my love language, because as soon as I saw these videos, I just watched and you could hear birds tweeting and he was talking through the different areas that they're built. Of course, it's built brilliantly, really solidly.
Yeah.
Just like the rest of their garden.
Pristine.
And then he zooms around on their water harvesting section, which is about, it looked like, I think, 7 butts of 1,000-litre tanks along in a line, all connected up, plumbed in to water the garden.
Yeah.
And then the compost bin. And I just felt so much calmer. That's what even just a video of a compost bin will do for me.
Well, that's really nice. That's lovely. That's
so
exactly
send me your
needed.
bin pics. That's my love language. It does something, a bin pic. Anyway.
Compost bin pic.
But then I went, yes, good point. So then I went in, a lovely nurse called Beverly took me in and she was just delightful. She was everything I could have wanted, really. She was a bit older than me. Very, very chatty, fully in control. And so then you take everything off up top and then you walk towards this machine and then she sort of prods and pushes your boob around and then it gets flattened briefly and then you do it on each boob and then she turns the machine by 45 degrees and then that was quite painful, not in terms of the boobage but in terms of my back, because you have to kind of twist your back round, you have to hook your arm over the side of the machine.
Oh yeah, that's gonna hurt.
Got to look at the picture of the butterfly.
Oh yeah. Look at the butterfly.
And then that gets squashed that way. Ooh. And then that's it, all done. So then I wait for my results. But
so how was the squish? Was it
really it's fine. No, it's fine, goodness me. Far worse
feeling
things
for the lump.
Can happen. They're not feeling for it. They're just trying to squash your tissue as much as possible so that the scan will get as good a view as possible.
Yes.
Ideally you want it totally and utterly flat so that everything's sort of one layer. But obviously they can't do that. So it's squashed as much as it can be and then they check for any anomalies. So I'll find out a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. She said with your first one, because they don't know my boobs at the moment, they will not know if there are, for example, if you've got a cyst or just a benign lump that you've always had there. They're not going to know that history yet. So there is a possibility I'll get called back in and have a chat with the doctor and another scan and all that kind of stuff. But we'll see. So
it's just creating your profile, really.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. So that's all done.
Very interesting.
But in the garden, sweeties, I came back to the garden and it's wonderful. We ate the asparagus, of course, didn't we? Which was the sweetest asparagus we've ever had. I know,
it was so flavourful. It was quite incredible. And it made me like asparagus a bit more because I was kind of all right with, but I just kind of found it just quite bland and watery-ish.
Not when I've done it with goat's cheese walnuts.
No, obviously then it just tastes like goat's cheese walnuts and
balsamic vinegar. That's a nice recipe.
They were nice.
Well, these are really sweet, aren't they? We had 1 spear each, I think, pretty much.
I think so.
If that. That's our harvest. But one day I saw some more have come up. Then our Grisha is looking just unbelievable.
Oh, lovely.
We have all sorts of tulips coming up of every colour. The forsythia are amazing. They're so voluminous. And we have some scillas, which they might go over before you get back, but I've taken photos, so you can have a look at those. Muscari are coming up, and
lovely.
Our ceanoses are budding. There are loads and loads and loads of buds on them, so they're about to explode into purple colour. Blue colour, really, aren't they? So you'll see that when you come home.
Oh, fab.
So that's it, really, on the garden front. It's that time of year where everything is just coming out and it just makes you happy, doesn't it?
It really does, yes.
Now, sweetie, I'm rapid firing at you because I'm so conscious of using up your time. So just one quick thing. This is a reminder about Martin Dawn's film. So I watched The Birds last week. I don't know if anybody else did. I absolutely loved it. I'd love to hear anybody's thoughts on it, any feedback. I thought it was wonderful. The thing about Martin Dawn's wildlife films is he injects a certain amount of him in it as well.
He really does.
And in this one, he talks about hanging up his boots, his sort of wildlife boots or his tripod. He wonders if his filming days are over. And so you get that little bit of, pondering on life, as well as then, the beautiful photography of the birds, which I think he filmed in Norfolk. It's a really fantastic film, beautiful to see, 50 minutes long, and it is on iPlayer now.
Oh.
So thoroughly enjoyed that. But My Garden of 1,000 Bees is on this Wednesday, the 25th, on BBC 4 at 8 p.m, and then on iPlayer. And this is the one that Sweetpea and I have seen together and loved, didn't we? And it's the one that he refers to as well, a bit on the Garden as Well programme and a lot in our chit-chat with him.
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant.
Wonderful film. Well, Sweetpea, do you want me to rattle through a little bit of No Way News? Have you got any brain capacity for it?
I mean, I'm probably not going to keep it in, but it'll be fun to listen to.
Well, I'll try and keep them short this week. But first off, the Gympie Gympie plant. I feel like we might have spoken about this before.
Rings a bell.
It's a plant that's indigenous to Queensland in Australia and also in Malaysia.
Okay.
And it stings. It's part of the nettle family, and it stings in a similar way to nettles. But the pain it causes has been described as being as if you're being electrocuted and set on fire at the same time.
And set on fire! Wow, they had to put the two together.
And the pain can last for months. And it's sometimes referred to as the suicide plant because folklore says that the first explorer to come across the plant used it for, shall we say, toilet purposes, and was in such agony he shot himself.
Oh my God.
Anyway,
interesting.
So we might have discussed this either on the pod or just you and I chatting about gruesome plants.
Yes, I swear I've heard of something that does that before.
Well, a little bit of good news about this plant. So scientists are finding that there could be a medical use for it.
Oh.
Because it could unlock new painkillers. The Latin name for it is Dendrocnide moroides. And it produces a neurotoxin called gympetides. And it interacts with the nerves when it's injected into the skin from the plant. So with the little hairs like you have on a nettle, it releases that neurotoxin under the skin. And that interacts with the nerves. But many toxins cause pain by, you probably know about this, but by binding directly to sodium channels in the sensory nerve cells.
Yes.
But the gympetide toxin needs some help to bind via a partner protein called TMEM233. And without it, the toxin has zero effect. Have you heard of that protein?
Not even slightly. That is so cool.
Because unless it's the Sonic Hedgehog protein, you're not interested, right?
Not even slightly interested.
Well, it's the first time a toxin like this has been seen, i.e. a toxin that's needing a partner protein to impact sodium channels. So they're researching if switching off this pain mechanism might lead to the development of new painkillers or anaesthetics. And therefore those will have a long-lasting effect, and it means being able to avoid, all the problems with painkillers. So the dependency issues, because people can get addicted to them, can't they?
Huge addiction to them.
There are loads of side effects. We're even learning about side effects to paracetamol at the moment, aren't we?
Yes.
When that was always considered quite a benign painkiller.
Yeah, just to kind of almost like chalk.
Yeah, so this Gympie Gympie plant, they're seeing if it could be used to develop new painkillers that will avoid all of those sorts of issues.
I mean, that would be incredible. That would be
amazing,
absolutely awesome. This plant that gives you the death sting, to be honest. The death sting,
yep, exactly.
It's the death sting could be used kind of against its own self. That could be really cool.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I really love that.
But also it just shows how incredibly important the plant world is to all of life, humankind and all living beings on Earth, really.
Absolutely. And once again, it's also that whole thing of it's not black and white. There's a grey area. This plant may seem like it's the devil in plant form, but actually it could help progress kind of science and humanity. That would be amazing.
It's a very interesting article. I'll, of course, be putting a link to it on our website.
Fab.
So, Sweetie Pie, plant fun fact. What have you got for me?
Very small one, but I thought it was quite interesting. It's that out of 1,750 species of cacti, 1,749 of these species are native to only the Americas, which is very, very cool. So they only come from North and South America.
That is amazing. Where does the other species come from?
Well, there's one exception to like all laws. Everything seems to have an exception.
Yeah.
There is this plant, this cacti called Ripsalis bassifera. I think that's how you say it. And this is also found in Africa and Sri Lanka as well. And it's quite an interesting cacti because it's got these really kind of spindly kind of fingers, just loads of these kind of fingers everywhere. Do look it up. It's quite an interesting plant.
Yeah.
But I thought that was quite fascinating. That
is
just this
interesting.
one can be found elsewhere as well.
1,750, did you say, in total?
Yeah.
And 1,749 come from the Americas.
Yes, exactly.
Very interesting. That's a good fact to rattle off on a night out.
Gosh.
You'd just be a barrel of laughs, wouldn't you? Did you know that?
Why do you make my voice so high-pitched?
I don't know. Now, guys, I've got a fun fact about cacti.
Why have I become... Why have I got a New Zealand accent?
I don't know. That's just me being bad with accents.
Really
Sweetie,
bad.
do you want to hear an animal fun fact?
Yes, hit me with it.
It's a number of animal fun facts about one particular animal, but I will rattle through them.
Love that.
This is about honey badgers, which is such incredible animals anyway.
They're so cool.
They're funny.
They're
really funny little blighters, aren't they?
Yeah, well, they've got sass, haven't they?
Oh my gosh, they've got serious sass. Did you know that honey badgers aren't actually badgers? They're more closely related to the wolverine.
Oh, interesting. Oh, that's cool.
So the only thing they really share with a badger is the black and white fur, and that's pretty much where it stops.
Okay, interesting.
They have a mutualistic symbiotic relationship with a bird called a honey guide.
Oh, yeah.
And what happens is the honey guide will locate a beehive, and then it calls out to the honey badgers. And then the honey badgers step in and they attack the hive, they break it up, they'll eat a whole load, but they always leave enough for the honey guide. And then the bird can swoop in and it's really interested in the wax and the larvae within it. And it wouldn't otherwise be able to get to it because it doesn't have the strength to break up the hive. So the honey badger does that part for them, and then they can go grab the wax and larvae. And they both get something from it. The biggest loser, of course, is the bee.
Yeah, of course.
I do love those sorts of symbiotic relationships. It so fascinates me.
Yeah.
The honey badger has incredibly thick skin. It's at least 6 millimeters thick, which, to put into perspective, that's thicker than a buffalo's skin.
Ooh.
And that's an animal more than 50 times its size.
Crikey.
So really, really thick skin. And what's more, it's very, very loose fitting, so that if it gets grappled by a predator, it can kind of squirm and twist around and slip out of the jaws of the predator.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. That reminds me of Hobbs, to be honest. She seems to have a lot of excess
she does.
flubbery bits.
She squirms and twists out of our clutches, doesn't she? They've got very, very long claws. And they can
have seen this.
dig themselves a burrow. Well, those claws are very dangerous, but they can dig themselves a burrow at the drop of a hat. So they can be literally anywhere, and they just go, I need a burrow to sleep in or a burrow for protection. They'll just dig a burrow, dive in.
That would be nice to be able to do.
Wouldn't that be handy?
How fun.
And I think I've mentioned it before that they're incredibly intelligent, because I did show you a video of them being like escape artists trying to get out of captivity. But they will use tools. So they'll actually use tools to escape their confinement.
And, it's very, very cool.
I'll try and find the video actually and put it onto our website. It's very funny because the rangers are trying to find just some way of containing these honey badgers, and they can't. They're trying every possible thing under the sun, and these honey badgers just keep escaping. Very funny. And then finally, and this is a very gruesome habit of theirs, they will often target anything that's dangling from their foe. So if they're in a fight, they will try and grab anything dangling, and they essentially castrate their opponent.
Ooh.
And what's more, they just leave their opponent to bleed out before then they tuck in.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that is That's pretty horrific.
The moral of the story is if you've got dangly bits, step away from the honey badger.
Step away.
Well, Sweetpea, we have a garden as well to have a look at, and
We do.
we will need to move through this quite rapidly. And what we've done is I've sent you the plant names.
Mm-hmm.
You have been able to watch it. You found a new technique, which was to watch it at double speed.
Times 2 speed. Which I could say is, I will not be doing again, but if you want to watch Garden as well and you want to get through it quickly, if you watch it on times 2 speed, it's quite incredible. Monty zips round his garden at high speeds, plants things at high speeds. It's pretty amazing, actually.
Does it make everyone sound very high-pitched?
It does. Yes, it's quite fun, actually. Anyway, so it was quite enjoyable.
Oh, good. Well, that's the way to do it.
Yes.
We don't recommend doing that because Gardener's World is obviously created with calm and peace in mind. So seeing Monty steam around his garden isn't what you're after.
No.
But you watched it at double time, double speed. Mm-hmm. I have noted down all the plant names, so you will have them there with you.
Yeah.
So we'll get cracking. So
yes, absolutely.
This is Gardener's World 2026, Episode 2 Recap.
Off we go!
We're at Longmeadow with Monty and Ned. Ned's being a good boy. And did you see Monty's immaculate spade collection? I can't entirely cope with it.
Yes.
That looks like heaven, doesn't it?
That was amazing. It's the kind of thing you dream about in your dream garden, is having a perfectly immaculate, clean, tidy, no mess shed.
And he's in what was the copse, and he's now making it into a woodland garden, and he's looking at plants that thrive in the shade. And Ned at this point has something to say, so Monty gives him a little biscuit. But did you get the 2 plants, Sweetpea, that I sent you?
Well, as luck would have it, I do. So one was the Tiarella, which I have heard of before, rather pretty. This one was called Spring Symphony. Mm-hmm. And that was a lovely kind of pale, very pale pink, almost going into the whites. And then there was a Tillema grandiflora as well. Both work extremely well in kind of shady woodland gardens.
But need dampness, he said.
But need the dampness, which is great for Longmeadow because they get the dampness.
Heck of a lot of dampness.
Yes.
And then we go to Mary Keane's garden in Gloucestershire with Joe Swift.
Yes.
And Joe explains how Gardener's World is getting exclusive access to her garden. She's a designer. She's designed gardens for lots of famous people, but that's all entirely hush-hush.
Yes.
So we don't talk about that. Say no more, say no more.
It was so frustrating. I was like, oh, some gossip. And then Joe went, we can't say that. And she was like, oh, okay.
And she says how with her own garden, she hasn't drawn anything out at all. No. And 2/3 of it is to be wild with wildflowers all year. And then she's cutting an S-shaped path through it.
To make it feel bigger.
And then we have a look at what she describes as a mixed border, which is a name Joe isn't happy with, but he touches on border names a bit later on.
Joe doesn't seem to be happy with much, does he?
And she has snowdrops and hellebores, and then also some
Henryi lilies and agapanthus as well.
That's it. And then Joe talks about how he's quite reticent about using purpley maroony foliage in the garden.
That was interesting.
Not sure why.
Yeah.
I think it's rather nice to have.
Yes, and I've heard so many designers talk about it constantly, how having this purple foliage can really lift the colours of other plants, especially even the green of other plants as well.
I wonder why he felt that. But he did like what Mary's done. She's got a berberis that she inherited in that garden, and then she's picked up the colours with other plants, like there was a thalictrum.
Yes, that always gives a nice purple colour. And then there was some deep maroon hollyhocks, which we do actually have by our vegetable plot. So that looks really pretty. Yes, it does. And then dahlias, that's my kind of favourite maroon colour that you'd have, because the juxtaposition between the maroon colour and the dahlia leaves, and also the stem as well, can be so incredible when you then have like a pink or a red or an orange even. That looks amazing. Yeah. So yes, she had that, and also sanguisorbas as well. That's another great one.
Yeah, you like sanguisorba a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I love that.
And I absolutely adored it when Joe is walking along behind Mary, asking her about her different borders. And he desperately wants a name of a border, it seems.
He does.
And she does have catchy names for her borders, because she has one that's called Wild and High and Shrubby. She has another which is called Transition Between Wild and High and Shrubby, Not Totally Working.
Not totally working. I love that.
And her final one is called The Much More Gardened Flowery Look Against the Wall border. So he got his names in the end, but he does seem completely amused by it, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
And Mary picks out the euphorbia for their greenness, and Joe likes their zinginess. They both have a sort of mutual moment, mutual understanding of their love for euphorbias.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Mary does say what her current, in inverted commas, favourite plant is.
Yes.
Which one was that, Sweetpea?
That was the Dianthus cassusinorum, German pink.
German pink.
Yes. A very pretty plant.
Yeah, and quite versatile. She says it grows in shade and gravel and borders.
Mm-hmm.
A good plant to have.
Just anywhere.
We then see the apple tree, which was completely surrounded by planting. I loved that. I really love
packed
it. Yes, I love that natural vibe to it. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but if you have paths in, but it's packed right up to the trees, it just looks glorious, doesn't it?
It does look so incredible. There's something so just kind of little secret garden-ness to it
absolutely.
As well. I did really like that. So there were plants under there with oreganos, crocosmias, peonies, iris, fennel, agapanthus. So quite an array of plants, not just kind of little cute plants under a tree.
Yeah. Joe describes them as mainly cottage garden plants.
Yeah, there was definitely a cottage garden feel to a lot of the planting, but then there was some very wild and even some slightly a tropical-ness.
Yeah. And then they're in a little courtyard, which Mary calls Rarity Corner.
Yeah, in that area she had like lots of little intricate plants, little things that she found quite interesting, and a little bit rare as well. So there was some fuchsias.
It was the fuchsia climbing Lady Boothby.
Yes, Boothby. I quite like that name. That's really nice. She also had a Menianthus in there and a Begonia albopicta rosea, and that was gorgeous.
And that's the one, that begonia is the one that she said she has to bring into the kitchen in the winter.
Yes, don't want to get any frost on that.
No. And then when asked what's her favourite garden, so bearing in mind Mary's designed all these amazing gardeners for people who have no name, probably with loads and loads of money, she says mine, of course.
Of course. And I get that, because you can completely relax in your garden and it shows a bit of you in it.
It does. Well, Mary has designed gardens all over the world. I don't have any names of celebrities, but she has done. You were hoping, weren't you?
I was wanting the gossip.
She's done numerous for Lord Rothschild. And do you remember when we saw on Gardener's World 2025, episode 25, there was Andrea Benson and Jenny Mercer. They were growing plants for dyeing for the costumes for the opera.
Yes. Loved that. Absolutely loved that bit.
Yeah. Well, that was at Glyndesbourne, and Mary designed the gardens around the new opera house there.
Oh, okay.
But with this garden, she's been at that place for 5 years now. Previously, she had the old rectory at Dunstbourne Roos or Rouse near Cirencester. That was huge. That was 22 acres.
Wow.
So she's downsized a fair bit. And I found a couple of good articles on her new garden. One was written just a year after she'd moved. That's in the Country Life magazine. And another was 5 years later with House and Garden magazine. So in the first, she talks a lot about her plans for the space. And then, of course, you get an update 5 years later of how it's all going. So I'll put links to both of those. But what she did say when talking about the plans, she said that the priority was creating a meadow and naturalising it as much as possible, because she said it's much easier to handle, and with getting on in age, you know, she wants to have an easier space.
Absolutely.
And in her meadow, within the first year, she planted, together with lots of Tulipa sylvestris and Gladiolus byzantinus, 1,000 crocus Thomasinianus and 1,000 blue anemone blanda.
Wow.
So a whole heap of bulbs went in. How fantastic would that be? It just makes me want to do the same.
Yeah,
I'm going to go bulb mad with our meadows.
I'm
definitely putting the narcissi in. I already have forewarned you of that, hadn't I? I'm going to stick a whole load of crocus in as well, and get some other little bulby things in. So then you've got that early interest, and then we'll figure out the rest. Obviously, I need to do all the rattle and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, haven't got time to discuss that now.
No.
But back to Mary, a couple of things that stood out from a Gardens Illustrated interview that she did. Firstly, she said that being outside, working with plants as many days as you can is the best and healthiest way to spend time. Cheaper than a gym, easier than meditation. It is the most grounding thing, literally, that anyone can do. That was incredibly relatable.
Yes, very relatable.
And when she was asked if there was anything exciting in the pipeline, this interview was prior to her Gardener's World appearance. She said, BBC Gardener's World came here in late July. I was dreading it, but Joe Swift made it too much fun for me to be nervous, and the film crew were kind and patient. They arrived at 8 in the morning and left at 7 in the evening for 10 minutes of screen time, which we hear with every single one of our guests, don't we? But we always hear how lovely the crew are.
They do sound really nice.
Yeah. So even though it's a long, exhausting day, it's with a really nice team.
Which is great. It makes it not so exhausting.
And it gets the best out of everyone, doesn't it?
It really does.
Oh, so then we're back with Ned, and he's got his ball. Gardener's World wouldn't be the same without Ned scampering around the place.
Gosh.
And he does it all with such enthusiasm, doesn't he?
Really does.
And Monty's sorting his scented pelargoniums. Which ones did you get?
Yes, the ones that I got were Tomentosum and Torrento as well.
And the Tomentosum is the one that smelled like mint, I think he said, and the Torrento smells of cola sweets.
Yes, quite peculiar. How fun.
Yeah. And then there was also this zonal pelargonium.
Oh,
and he said when it grows wild, it can be a big woody shrub, 6 foot tall, which I didn't know.
Which would be quite fun.
And he said they get pruned by fire.
Yes.
But Monty's obviously not igniting them. He's cutting them back and he's snipping off, leaving a bit of stem because he likes a bit of legginess. But if you want it more compact and tight, then you snip it lower down.
Yeah, exactly.
And finally, he's doing some repotting. So he puts in crocks, wood-based compost and some grit in the soil. And then he dresses with some grit. And he feeds with liquid seaweed once a week.
Sure does.
And then we meet Karim Habibi at Keepers Nursery in East Farleigh in Kent. And he's with his collection of amazing heritage apples.
Absolutely incredible. And it was incredible to hear that it was a family nursery. So it's kind of gone down the generations.
Yes, and we'll hear a bit more about that later on. But he's got 700 varieties.
He has, yes.
And he's working hard on preserving a lot of the old varieties. And he talks about some of those. Yes,
so there was Sweet Society, that's a dessert apple, and that's quite an intense taste to it. And then you've got, on the other hand, Jumbo, which, as the name says, huge when he had it in the palm of his hand. And that's a great cooking apple, so that's lovely, and you can get loads from it as well. Then there was Captain Kidd, that's quite sweet, kind of pear drop flavour. And then there was some interesting ones that I hadn't heard of. There was Morel and Pitmaeston pineapple. Oh, I have actually heard of Pitmaeston pineapple.
Yeah.
And those are ones that his parents grew.
Yeah, that's right. So Karim explains how he produces 7,000 new trees every year.
I know.
It's unimaginable.
Ooh,
1,000 mother trees, and every one is a different variety. What a collection,
that's
huh?
Amazing.
And then he talks about what we've seen before with Tom Hoblin, the harvesting of the scion wood from each tree for cloning.
Yes.
And he takes the clippings from new growth only.
Yes, absolutely.
So he takes off all the leaves, grafts it onto some rootstock, tapes it up, and that's just like we saw. Do you remember Tom Hoblin? Joe Swift was with him at the time. And apparently Joe refused to do any on camera.
Yes, too worried that he might mess it up a little bit.
Mess it up.
But yes, it's that good old term, chip budding.
Chip budding. And he said that every apple in this country is made like this, so with a rootstock and then the scion wood from the other tree.
Yeah, which is really interesting because it means that you're cloning the apples. So when you taste an apple, and I didn't know this, I just thought that like anything else, it's kind of evolved and therefore it's going to be completely different from what there was many, many years ago. But apparently with apples, because you are cloning them, you're tasting exactly what people would have tasted back many years
Hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
It's really interesting when you consider that, isn't it? It's a lovely thought.
It is a lovely
cloning these plants so that they hang around forever, really.
Yeah, exactly.
So, as we know with chip budding, you take your little slip, really.
Yes.
You're exposing quite a lot of the sort of open wound.
Yes, exactly, the flesh of
and
it.
then you create a similar kind of gash on the rootstock, and then you stick it on with tape.
Yeah, special tape that you have to use for the chip budding.
Does it have to be special tape?
I think so, because you don't want it to kind of sweat too much or just kind of rot away in there.
Oh, right. Oh, I didn't know
It's kind
that.
of this clear stuff that he seems to use, and I think I've seen that being used before, so
right.
Maybe that's one we have to... I might look that up for next week.
Yeah,
what
would
is
you?
the special tape?
Because you'll have some time, so that can be for housekeeping next week, because it's never even crossed my mind to consider what the tape is. I just thought they got any old tape whacked on.
No, I can't imagine it's any old tape. I'd be
All
surprised.
Well, let me know next week.
I sure will.
And finally, on the chip budding, every summer, Karen will go out from late July into August. He'll spend 10 to 12 hours a day collecting signwood and chip budding. And he'll aim to do 500 a day, working into the night with a head torch on. That's something else, isn't it? But it just shows. So you've got this intense period of work that you've had to do for your exams, and it's the same what Karen's doing, and you just know it's finite. Just got to get that done. That sets you up for the rest of the year.
That's a very good point, actually.
Good analogy. Hey, Sweetpea.
A very good analogy. And then he does talk about when you have your apple tree, how to just kind of keep it nice and healthy, just so that there's nice airflow. So obviously that's cutting away any branches which are kind of on the trunk, on the main trunk, and leaving a kind of canopy above. And then it's all about having a nice balanced crown, so that you've kind of got branches coming out in the different directions, but not kind of crisscrossing, and not too many branches, because you just want a nice airflow, and then your apples can get nice and big and juicy.
Yeah, and to position the crown, it's basically where you chop the leader, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And then you just splay out.
And then he finally talks about how he's been producing his own varieties.
He has.
And it was a rather sort of bittersweet story, because it was incredible that he had created this beautiful apple, but sad that his father sadly passed away before he would ever get to taste it. So that must have been quite heartbreaking, I think, for Karen.
That was heartbreaking. It's called Hamid's Red Pippin apple.
That's the one, yeah. Oh, I'd love to try that.
I know.
Well, Keepers Nursery was established in 1993 by Karen's parents Hamid and Seema in East Farleigh, and he loved growing up there. He basically grew up at the nursery, and he would earn pocket money in the summers as a teen working there. And then he became a partner in the business in 2010 after he did biological sciences at uni, followed by an RHS level 3. And he quotes on his website, I love this, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. Now, that's not an ancient proverb from Adam Frost, because he said last week the best time to plant a tree is yesterday.
Yes, very good point. All of this planting a tree yesterday or 20 years ago is quite annoying.
Well, this is an old Chinese proverb, so it's allowed. Karen's Nursery is open for pre-order on the 1st of May.
Great.
So I'll put a link on our website if you want to browse their online catalogue for that. We then have a brief moment with Monty and Ned, and then we're into our first Your Gardens series.
Hooray! We're back into them.
Wonderful news. I was really pleased to see this, and it just made me happy. This is James Baker from the Traitors, and he's in Weymouth. He's a gardener. Do you know what the Traitors is?
The Traitors? Oh, I have. Wasn't Joe Wilkinson on the Traitors or something like that?
Yes, he was.
Isn't it a TV programme?
Yeah, that's right.
They're all sat around a table and they have to figure out who'd done it.
Who done it? Yeah, I mean, that's a part of it. I haven't seen all of a series, but I did watch some because it had Nick Mohammed in it. It was like a celebrity version, and that's the one Joe Wilkinson was in.
Yes.
And Nick Mohammed, probably the nicest man on the face of the planet, isn't he?
We really like him. We think he's absolutely brilliant.
Certainly the nicest man on TV. Anyway, so this was a non-celebrity version of that. James was on series 4, apparently.
Oh my gosh, cool.
But he shows us around his gorgeous garden. He shows his patio area. He says he moves things around to whatever tickles your fancy.
Exactly.
He had some tulips there. He had a very sort of live and let live attitude towards gardening. He showed some plants in one of the borders. Which ones were those?
There was periwinkle, purple hebe. There was a pink climbing rose as well in that one area.
That's it. And because he liked the intertwining of the purple hebe and the pink climbing rose. And the periwinkle, I think he said he just lets that kind of cascade down.
Yes. And do you know what that reminds me of? Is our ceanosis with my beautiful yellow rose intertwining and intermingling in it, because it looks really pretty, the purple and the yellow together.
That's completely different.
It's not completely different. It's exactly the same.
That's because you planted your rose cutting far too close to the ceanosis.
I did not. I will not take this abuse.
You're going to die on this hill, aren't you?
I will.
Your yellow rose next to ceanosis. And then James shows us a little pear tree, and he explains how there was a pear tree already there in the garden. It was swamped in ivy. It was really on its last legs, and it had one pear on it. So they planted the seed from that one pear, and this is the tree they've got today. So they completely rescued that pear.
Yeah.
Now, I really loved to see James's son Noah raking up the leaves.
Yeah, that was really sweet, actually. And as per usual with all kids in the garden, I've had it. Well, I still have it, honestly. Is the parent going, right, leaves or weeding or whatever, and then you get out and you're kind of like, oh, I don't want to go. You're really angry about it, and then you get out and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so zen.
Well, I think Noah's thoroughly enjoying himself. He was putting in some primroses. And then he tells us how he's going to be putting in various veg.
Yeah, the onions, carrots, radishes, lettuce plants, and cucumber up the trellis, up the back.
Yeah, he was hoping that would work. And James talks about his granddad, who was a gardener and lived to 102. So therefore, it must be good for you.
Oh, it must be. I mean, I think we already know it's very, very good for
We know it's very good for you. And James shows us his bay, which was a twig when he put it in, and now it's looking very healthy, a huge tree. They do grow fast. We have a lot of bay around us.
They do.
They self-seed big time.
Ooh, like crazy.
But I loved that sedum stone crop, which he had underneath the bay, which he was using as a ground cover. That was a pretty little plant, wasn't it?
And it reminds me of our Abretia, where you just put like a little sprig in the ground with just like a little bit of root on it. Or even if it hasn't got root on it, it does root very easily. And then it just carpets, just goes everywhere.
Lovely. I quite fancy some of that sedum stone crop. And then the final plant that James talks about, he said he kind of self-awarded himself a bravery award for it.
Yes, and that was the incredible aeonium, and one that I haven't seen before, which looked like an actual firework because the leaves were so thin.
Stunning, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it looked in such healthy condition, even though he'd left it out over winter. Now, all I can think about when he was talking about that is Aeonium Mellie's dramas, when just the heating went in her greenhouse. So they were still in a greenhouse, but died. A whole greenhouse worth. She lost all the plants. So here's James just leaving one out in Weymouth.
It must be a microclimate.
It must be warmer down there.
Very cool. And then finally at the end, something that made me really laugh, and I absolutely loved this, was a quote from James, and it was, gardening adds years to your life and life to your years. And I thought, this is brilliant, because for once it actually works. The amount of times I've heard people go, don't love your job, job your love. And I was just like, what is wrong with you? It does not work.
Anyone's ever said that ever.
They have. It's
in the
well
history
known.
of signs to put up in your kitchen. I don't think anyone's ever said, love the job you're with, don't with the job you love.
So I thought, this is brilliant. Thank you, James, for actually coming up with one that works and actually makes sense.
It does summarise it perfectly. He wants it on a t-shirt. I wonder if I should get that on a sign for you, Sweetpea.
Oh, that would be brilliant.
Well, James says on his social media after the episode, he said, "Well, it's safe to say my son stole the show. Proud dad alert." Isn't that
He sure
sweet?
did.
As mentioned, James was on the TV show The Traitors, and from what I can tell on his series, he was a finalist, so did pretty well.
Oh, that's good.
But gardening really is his thing. He says on his social media that he doesn't want to become an influencer or anything like that. He's really into his gardening. He's into his music as well. He seems to play in a band, play guitar, sing.
Oh, cool.
And he also does some semi-professional poker playing, from what I could see. But he does give some very enthusiastic talks on horticulture to students and sort of giving them industry advice and talking about his path
it's needed
into it as a career. And he's been a self-employed gardener for 6 years now, absolutely loves his job. He describes it as paid exercise, which is so true. But he said he didn't decide what he wanted to do until he grew up. And he grew up at the age of 32.
I get that.
So it just shows you can come to these things late. You can have a complete change of career. You can not figure things out. He's now figured it out. And he puts posts on his social media where he's just looking so happy whenever he's out gardening.
That's good.
So he's in a great place.
That's fantastic.
Monty's raking a raised veg bed. We seem to see that such a familiar sight on Gardener's World.
It is a familiar sound.
He's sowing. He says a rule of thumb: if you're sowing some seeds, if the soil feels cold, then don't.
Yeah.
And he was doing garlic, and because it's been so wet there, he did the garlic in deep plugs in the greenhouse and then put them outside all winter because they're the type of plant that need the cold, don't they, to split the cloves.
I thought you should just get one whack of a bulb.
And then he was putting those into the bed.
Yeah.
And then he introduces Carol Klein, who last August was at RHS Rosemoor to see now Monty says to see their vegetable garden and potager.
Yes.
But potager, what's the difference? Potager, I mean, you're the one who's good at French. Potager is a veg garden.
What it seemed to be was that the potager was kind of a mix. So the veg garden was very kind of pristinely put together, so very much so all the veg in rows nicely in the areas, whereas the potager was a mix of kind of ornamentals, so there were also ornamentals in there, and it was kind of all designed a kind of circular bit around the centre, so it was just kind of all a bit more free in the potager.
Yeah. Well, as you said, there was the central circular bit, and that was the herb garden, and then 4 symmetrical beds around.
Yes,
Which
exactly.
plants did you get in those?
Okay, so we had all sorts of different things. We had pink chard, we had golden chard, we had Tagetes cinnabar, which is a very nice one. Very open flower, good for pollinators, which is great.
Yeah.
There was amaranth red army, which is really, really nice. I love amaranth.
Grown both to eat and for decoration.
Yes, exactly. It's a bit like quinoa when dried. It's very nice. And then there were beans, auroch as well, which is quite an interesting one. Bronze fennel, ornamental gourds, purely ornamental, which is quite sad because they do.
I didn't understand that. I don't understand why, if you've got a fence and you're in a potager, why you wouldn't put some edible ones up.
I suppose because just different. It's different varieties. And then also there were espaliered apples and stepover apples as well. And Carol just took us through how you create the different varieties. So stepovers are very short. You got 2 kind of main horizontal branches which go out nicely to the ground. You have kind of a good fencing or wire to put them across, and then you get lots of apples across that line. And then on the espaliered, it's kind of like a stepover apple, but bigger and against a wall. So you can have loads of different levels of horizontal branches. Yeah. Pretty much the same.
Now, just to give a bit of info on what was happening there, Sweetpea was talking very animatedly. There were arms and hands being waved all over the place. And because she's on a different microphone, a lot of that got picked up, but not to worry. That's what it was. At least she speaks passionately about espaliers and stepovers.
Exactly.
And then at the end, Carol mentions a bit about the companion planting that's going on too. So those lovely tagetes, they're at the feet of some fig leaf gourds, and they're to keep those white fly away, aren't they?
Yeah, tagetes, I mean, do pretty much everything, I find.
Let me tell you, after your one lie until 8 a.m, We're getting out in that veg garden.
I love how I get one.
There's a weed that's grown in all the beds, actually, which is a bit of a concern. I don't know what the name of the weed is, but it basically comes up in lots of spikes, and those spikes are the ones that if you touch, they flick a seed.
Oh no.
Yeah, ooh. I saw that today, so they've completely filled a few of the veg beds, so we need to get on top of that.
Okay, that will be interesting, because I'm slightly scared of them.
Mm-hmm. We then have a view of Monty's mound.
Yes.
They've put in a terrace instead of the old beds. I really liked those terraces.
Very nice. I can imagine sitting there.
A nice place, raised up above, and a nice vantage point, I would say.
And I think Ned will really enjoy sitting up there, because I know Hobbs likes to kind of sit on a hill and look down on anyone walking by. And so I can imagine Ned would enjoy that, kind of having this 360 view around.
Absolutely. And Monty keeps a load of houseplants in the shed on the mound.
Great spot.
And yes, he says it's a great spot. Can you remember the 3 reasons why?
Yes. So he talked about how it's great, first of all, because of the light. It's just a nice filtered light in there, which the plants love. Then constant temperature, and then neglect, which I am learning is the best thing for houseplants.
Houseplants. That's going to be good news for Claire Lowry, because with her indoor jungle, because she's got twins on the way.
Yeah.
And so her plants are going to get a little less attention. So that'd be great if it just, they'll keep ticking along nicely without much work.
That would be great.
Anyway, Monty's pruning his cheese plant, and he's putting in a support. He wipes dusty leaves, and then he gives them some seaweed feed. Mm-hmm. And then he's got spider plants, and he says they can handle a bit of overwatering, which we know because they thrive with us.
They do.
But he talks about that fungus gnat living in the decaying soil. So he says, take off the top layer and replace with fresh. Mm-hmm. Now, you have had fungus gnat problems, and on our chit chat with Claire Lowry, she talks about using nematodes, doesn't she, to keep them at bay. I put a link to where she gets those from. So if anyone's interested, go to Claire Lowry's episode of Chit Chats, and on there's a link to what she uses, what she recommends. And she found that worked very well, didn't it, for those fungus gnats? Now, Monty says a line which I would have said was right out of Alan Titchmarsh's playbook. I didn't see this sort of thing coming from Monty. He says, can you see the bubbles coming up there? It's bubbling like a man who's had Jerusalem artichokes before his bath.
I thought that was brilliant.
And that says he's doing an immersive soak for the spider plants. Then he's dealing with his Chinese money plant. He's just repotting that. He's putting it back in exactly the same pot. So he just is taking off a few of the roots. And finally, we go to Jim Stevens and his amazing display of camellias in Dobwalls in southeast Cornwall.
Yes, in his garden as well, which was really lovely to see. And he talks about how they're just fantastic plants. If you don't like camellias, well, then that's probably a problem with you.
It's just a you problem.
It's a you problem, not a camellia problem. Because camellias come in such an array of colours, forms. I really love the ones which kind of they fall to the floor before they get brown. So you kind of just have this carpet of petals and flowers. That was really gorgeous. And then, of course, the main factor about them is that they flower and give you such beauty throughout the pretty dark months, which is really, really great. So before anything else is popped back out again.
I do love camellias, and we have or had one in a pot because we don't have ericaceous soil here.
No.
He didn't mention anything about that, did he?
Didn't, actually.
Because I thought that was always the sticking point. Otherwise, if it wasn't, I'd just have loads of them. But
oh my gosh, I would.
I love how Jim's wife describes him as a serial obsessive.
Yes.
I have friends like that. I've got a friend, John, who gets obsessive about different things in the garden. And he's just all in. He's absolutely all in. It'll be pumpkins. He's all in. It'll be potatoes. That's it that year. So his poor wife just gets potatoes for one season.
Pumpkins.
Just pumpkins. Anyway, Jim explains there are over 30,000 varieties, 300 species, and he goes through a few in his garden.
He does. So we had Annette Carol, which was a very pretty pink one. Then Bob Hope, that's more of a deep red, and that's a japonica type camellia.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was Debbie, that's a Williamsii camellia type.
Mm-hmm.
There was Minato no Akibano, which means harbour at dawn, and that's very perfumed. That's really nice if you want a scented one. Then if you're going more blousy and quite pink, you'd love a Camellia reticulata mystique.
Yeah.
And one of the species ones was a Camellia luchuensis as well.
Yes.
And then finally there was a Koto no Kaori. That was a hybrid one. That's between the luchuensis and japonica, which means you get the great flowers and then also you get the great scent as well, which obviously is
lots of perfume.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the final one, this was also a species one with white flowers, very pretty, delicate flowers. It's amazing how the species are so kind of simple.
Yes.
There's such simplicity to them, but they're so pure at the same time.
Yeah.
And this one was called Transnoquensis.
Yeah. And I think the one we have had in a pot is a species one because it's very twiggy and it's white. And the flowers are very sort of simple. Yeah.
Very cute.
So you mentioned earlier about the dropping of before they get brown.
Yes.
Turning brown, the flowers. Mm-hmm. He said the Williamsii tend to drop flowers before they go brown, whereas the japonicas tend to go brown on the bush.
Yes. Yeah. So you could have a mix of both and then you get all the different feels.
Yeah. That would be nice to get some in. I need to find out more about the soil.
Mm.
And then Jim also shows his propagator, and he has lots of roots and his little camellias in there. He was a very, very happy man about that.
Everyone is when you get roots on a new plant.
And then at the end, he says, how could you not like camellias? It doesn't make any sense. And then promptly we cut back to Monty, who says he doesn't like camellias.
I felt so sorry for Jim. It was just like, bang, Monty back in the room.
What the heck, Monty?
What's wrong? Oh my gosh, you've been in gardening long enough.
I'm with Jim, though. Why would you not like camellias? I mean, if you like roses, why wouldn't you like camellias? Anyway, Jim has a number of websites, or did. He used to have jimscamellias.co.uk, which then closed, and he had jimscamellias.com. Now it seems that runs in parallel with gardenruminations.co.uk. That seems to be the most up-to-date website. Okay. It's not a website to go to for buying camellias. He does even actually say, I'd like to make it clear that I do not grow or supply plants or propagation material. I'm simply a camellia enthusiast writing about camellias.
Well, that's very important as well.
If you go to his websites, on both of them, he has huge galleries of all the different camellias, really beautifully photographed.
Well, then you know where to buy them afterwards.
There are hundreds of them, and he also writes a blog, which is also up to date on the later of those websites that I mentioned, Garden Ruminations. And he writes a blog where he'll talk about any problems that you might have with your camellias and how he overcomes them. So a lot of information on there. It really is. It's packed to the rafters with information.
Yes.
And also, his garden is open through the NGS.
Well, that's great then. Scheme.
Yeah, it sits about 3 miles west of Liskeard in Cornwall, and his first opening date seems to be Saturday the 20th of June, and then onwards, many Saturdays, Fridays, Saturdays, a couple of Sundays, a couple of Mondays.
Okay.
So I'll include a link to the NGS entry for his garden on our website.
Great.
We hear that Monty does love hydrangeas, and
he does.
Putting a paniculata cayushu in a pot.
Yeah, cayushu, very pretty one.
So he puts crocks in the pot. That's more to keep the soil from draining out. He puts grit in, some homemade leaf mould, peat from the compost. He leaves an inch at the top, and then he gives it a good soak. So it really soaks all the soil down into the roots. Yeah. And he said that plant will grow to a good 7 foot tall, which sounds absolutely amazing.
Sounds very cool.
To be that tall.
Yeah.
Jobs for the weekend.
Yes.
We have prune buddleia, sow cosmos, plant spent bulbs.
I will be sowing cosmos next weekend, so it's a week later, but it'll be fine.
Great news. Now tell me your favourite plant from this episode.
Well, it was actually that Williamsii camellia where they drop to the ground and show, but have full petals and full flowers.
Oh, great. Well, Jim will
it.
be pleased about that, won't he?
Oh, I want to have that if I have the right soil for it. I don't want to put it in and then it just dies. That's a waste.
No, absolutely. We'll check that out anyway.
Yeah. What's yours?
Well, mine was the sedum stonecrop
Nice.
at James Baker's garden.
Yes.
I really thought that was pretty.
That was a great little plant.
And what about your top takeaway?
Top takeaway was about how apples are cloned, and so therefore you can taste what people used to taste. I think that's just such an interesting fact, to be honest.
Yeah. Yes, that's a good one. Well, mine was chip budding, and I know we've talked quite a bit about it before, but I loved it when Tom Hobland did it. I loved it when Karim did it, because it's such an art, isn't it? And how clever they are at getting that the two faces to be of the same sort of size before they then clamp it together with the tape.
I know, that's why Joe didn't want to do it.
Well, shall we see what's on Gardener's World next week?
Absolutely.
It is on the 27th of March, and this is episode 3. With blossom popping and new green shoots emerging across the garden, Monty is busy with spring and planning ahead for summer. He's doing a seed sowing masterclass, cutting back cornice and dividing ferns to put in the new wooden garden. Francis Tophill is exploring the tiny but expansive world of miniature daffodils at a nursery with hundreds of cultivars. I love miniature daffodils. Very happy about this section. In Llanelli, Sue Kent meets a passionate gardener who has set up her own seed library, helping to preserve varieties of flowers and edibles which flourish in local Welsh soil and beyond. There's a florist in West Sussex who specialises in sweet peas, and a passionate tomato grower from Wiltshire who loves to grow old heirloom varieties that grew before the 1950s and have been gathered from around the world.
Very cool.
Very cool indeed. Well, that's it for this week's Sweet Pea.
It sure is. And if you want to get in touch at all, you can contact us on our website. Of course, there's a little contact section, and the website is notjustagarden.co.uk. Or you can also contact us at our email, which is notjustagarden@outlook.com as well. And do not forget to sign yourself up for the mailing list. You can see it on the website, and then you get all the info emailed straight to you, so you know when things are happening or when there's anything new on the website.
Yes, you'll see a little sort of pink box at the top of all the recap pages. Just pop your email in there. It's not a mailing list. Nothing's coming to you by post.
No.
But you can get episode updates if you put your email in there. Then you'll be first to be informed when the new episodes and recaps are out.
Exactly.
Well, Sweet Pea, you are off to do your revisione ready for tomorrow.
Yes, I've got a lot to do. I've got to pack, I've got to have supper, I've got to revise, and I've got to shower.
Oh my gosh, so much responsibility.
Like, so much responsibility.
Well, look, I hope it all goes well tomorrow with your exams. Have fun with it. Always have fun. And I'll be seeing you sometime after.
Oh, yes, you will.
And we shall be back for a recap next week.
We sure will. Thank you for listening.
Bye-bye, Sweet Pea.
Bye, my bear.